Freedom of speech, the right to bear arms, no cruel or unusual punishment, no unreasonable search and seizure. As Americans, we often hear about these rights, which are granted to us by the supreme law of the land, the United States Constitution. These rights, however, were not part of the original Constitution in 1788. They are, in fact, the Bill of Rights, 10 amendments to the Constitution that were added in 1789. At the time, a number of states were worried about the federal government having too much power. Thus, in order to prevent misconstruction or abuse of its powers, Congress invoked Article 5, the constitutional provision allowing for amendments, to cover the 10 amendments and to ensure certain freedoms to the citizens that the federal government could not infringe. A member of Congress can initiate the process to amend the United States Constitution by submitting a bill, or the states can begin the process by convening a convention of states if called for by 2/3 of state legislatures. Both chambers of Congress, the House and Senate, must pass the bill, and then 3/4 of the state must ratify it before the Constitution can be officially amended. December 15, 2016, marked the 225th anniversary of the ratification of the Bill of Rights amendments. The Maine State Archives is pleased to host the United States National Archives Bill of Rights and You display to commemorate this anniversary of a decision pivotal to the formation of the United States. Let's take a closer look at the Bill of Rights and what it means. The First Amendment. Citizens of Maine embrace this amendment on a daily basis, whether by publishing a news story or attending services at a place of worship. Here is an example of a Maine citizen, Oliver Parker, invoking his First Amendment right in the year 1821. Parker submitted petitions asking the government to pass a bill to protect the destruction of fish. Parker and other citizens of the town of Frankfort petitioned because they were being harmed by net fishing. The Second Amendment. The state of Maine has many cultural ties to firearms for hunting, sport, and self-defense, as well as a history of a strong militia force. Here is the Adjutant General's petition for leave and enlistment of the Bangor Unit on April 2, 1863. The militia was an important part of Maine's defense in early statehood, and we have several documents relating to forming militia companies across the state. The Third Amendment. This is a pay stub for 2 soldiers, Lieutenant John F. Sawyer and Timothy H. Weymouth, ensign, who served the state in the Aroostook War. They were paid for subsistence for their service in the war, and many soldiers relied on the help of local people for supplies as they served on the northern border. The Fourth Amendment. This amendment requires that government entities must seek warrants to conduct search and seizure in relation to investigations. One such warrant was served in the murder trial of Aaron Smith, March 16, 1814. The warrant was issued based on evidence from the coroner and a witness that Smith had shot and killed Joseph Garrett. The Fifth Amendment. In 1875, Thomas Black and Thomas Lally of Cape Elizabeth were arrested and tried for playing baseball on a Sunday. This document shows them going through the due process guaranteed to them by the Fifth Amendment. The Sixth Amendment. Again from the 1814 Aaron Smith murder trial, this document references our Sixth Amendment rights, citing the delinquency of witness John Martin on how that is affecting the defendant's right to a speedy trial. The Seventh Amendment. This right is on display in this Washington County District Court document showing an 1840 case regarding damages due to land flooded by the construction of a dam on the Narragansett River. The Eighth Amendment. Defining cruel and unusual is at the heart of this right, as seen in the death warrant for Joseph J. Sager of Gardner in 1834. The Ninth Amendment. The Ninth Amendment speaks to rights that are not addressed by the Constitution, declaring that those rights not mentioned should not be denied. An example of a right assumed by many is from the unratified 13th Amendment that was included in a published version of the Maine State Constitution and United States Constitution in 1825. This amendment was never ratified. It speaks to titles of nobility in the country and sovereignty of citizens. The 10th Amendment. This right gives the states the ability to create their own Bill of Additional Rights, which they each did, with their own state constitutions. This is the Maine State Constitution ratified in 1820, which reiterates much of the Bill of Rights in Article 1 and includes additional provisions and rights for Maine citizens throughout. The Maine Constitution can also be amended per Article 10, Section 4. Two-thirds of both houses of the legislature must propose the amendment and then send it to the voters of the state for approval before it can become part of our Constitution. Since the first states ratified the Bill of Rights 225 years ago, another 17 amendments have been added to the United States Constitution. These amendments have been important, expanding voting rights to men of all races, and later to women, ending slavery, and setting presidential term limits. In all, there have been only 27 amendments adopted, a small fraction of the more than 11,000 constitutional amendments that have been proposed in Congress. All of these amendments have sought to make the United States of America a more perfect union, and many citizens have benefited from the rights granted through this foundational document. The amendment process allows the United States to continue evolving and perfecting itself forevermore.